Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Faith and I am glad to have you here today. Alright, so we've been talking about selectors from the beginning of CSS, and we've seen different kinds of selector: the attribute selector, the combination selector, the simple selector, where we have the type, universal, ID, and class selector. So we're talking about the last type or category of selectors today, which is the pseudo selector. So we have our HTML here. All right, so we just gave it this padding. Let's view so that it will, in our general styling, we have removed the default style. So we want to be able to view our content. So let's use this to practice the pseudo selector. Now, according to W3 Schools, the pseudo selector has been split into two kinds, which is the pseudo class and the pseudo element. So a pseudo class is used to define a special state of an element. That's where when you say special state, that's when you have the hover, the focus, the visited, visited for links, unvisited, and so on. So for CSS pseudo element is used to style specific parts of an element. Okay, now this has to do with the state, this has to do with the part of an element. For example, it can be used to style the first letter or first line or an element itself. So it can use to insert content before or after the content of an element. So let's now see how this works in practical. We're going to begin with our link. Now we have this link. By default, our unvisited link is blue by default. So let's come back here. So this is our HTML. This is our first link. We have another link here. Do we have another? Okay, so back here. So this first one is a pseudo class selector. Now there's a difference between the pseudo class and the pseudo element. The difference is that one of them uses a single colon, while the other one uses a double colon. Okay, so let's see now. For this one, the syntax will be the element, which is a link, followed by a single colon. Then we have the class, the pseudo class. So the pseudo class we're using here is the link. So you see align self. This is used to style the link itself. So that's why we have single colon and okay, followed by our curly braces. So we want that when our link has not been visited, let the color be red. All right, so let's see that. So now that blue has changed to red. We have not visited this link yet. All right, so we want that when we have visited our link, so we're going to have a dot visited. The color, by default it has purple color, so we want it to be blue or dark. Okay, something very different, but the blue might be looking like purple somehow. Okay, so that's for visited. And then we can also have the hover. When we hover on our link, what do we want to see? Hover when you mouse over on your link. You can also style that to say we want the hover color to be, we can now say, let's give it a background this time. When we hover, it should have a background color of light. let's use this coral. Okay, so we have hover. When we click on it, visited, it will change to this dark golden rod. And then there is also the um, okay, link, visited, hover. There's focus. We use focus mostly for input. Okay, now we're going to use, is it current? Okay, active. That's it, active. So when your link is active, we want the active link to have a color of yep. So this would be the color of our active link. So let's view this. Control S. Let's view this. So our link, default link, unvisited link is red. So when we click on it, now we have visited the link. It has changed to this golden, yellow golden color, rod color. Okay, now if you want to, you see when we hover, it's having a pink background. But when we are on visited, you see I am holding down my mouse to assume I am on this page. You see it's having this lemon kind of color. So that's for the visited. So if you have your menus, different menus, and you are on a current page, an active page, the color will give you this color, this lemon kind of color. Then if you are hovering on it, it changes to a background of light pink. Then if you have visited it, the visited link changes to brown. Then this represents our non-visited, our unvisited link, link that we have not yet visited. All right, so that's it. So let's now move forward. Next, we're going to see, okay, let's look at the focus. For input, we have an input here. Okay, let's see when it's focused. That when you click on it and you want to start typing, let's change the background color of the focus. So that way you're going to say input and focus. You're now going to give it a background color of okay, let's say colored blue. Let's visit, and you see it has changed. So when on focus, it changed to, it gives you the background color of blue. So that's how you can get that. You can also use to style the border down, focus, the border color should change like that, like that. All right, so let's see another one. All right, from our HTML, the next here is the, after our link is the first and last child example. All right, let's see. Let's get this. All right, so first and last child. How do you style the first and last child? We'll just bring this in. You do that by, okay, so to save time, well, I'm just going to paste this. So for the first child, you just say the P. We already know that the syntax is the single colon. So we just say colon first child. So we want the first child of the paragraph to be bold and want the last child to be, let's now see what first child of the paragraph back here inside this div. The first child is this, that's the first P, and the last child will be the last paragraph. So it's going to affect every other div that has a paragraph in it. So that will affect this div, this paragraph, because they all have a div, right, attached to them. Okay, they all are P tags. So except maybe you now use a class to select only a particular section. So let's see this, how this works first. So this is our first paragraph, and what did we say? Let's not get this confused. We say our first child of our paragraph should be blue, and the last child of any of our paragraph should be green. And this is the first child of our paragraph. You see, sorry, this is the first paragraph, and this is the last paragraph. So in this place where we also have multiple paragraphs, it will do the same. It will take this and it will affect this as well. So let's see if that works right. So you see the first paragraph is blue, the last paragraph is green. And here the first paragraph is blue. You see it skipped the second one because we said the last child, so it took the last paragraph and made it green. So that's for the first and last child element. Okay, so what if we don't want it to affect that second paragraph, we want it to just be on this paragraph. So we're going to give our div a class and call it first, because this is that is the first div. So let's take this and say so remember from here, this one blue, green, blue, green. We don't want it to affect this section, so we want to use the class to only affect this section. So we can come behind here and add the class of first. Also here the class of first. You can add the div at the back if you want, or you can just leave it like that. So let's refresh this, and you can see it no longer affects this paragraph, but it's now staying only on this and this paragraph. So that's how you can mix it up, group them as well, like combine it with a class. Okay, so you have two different ways here. The next one is the end child. So the end child. So we've set our end child to odd for the li. Okay, this is our list. So we said odd, meaning it will take the first one, which is 1, which is an odd number. It will skip 2, which is an even number, and it will take milk, which is an odd number, by position, by the index. So, and it will give it a color of orange. So and it will give it a color of orange. So let's view this. And it will give it a color of orange. So let's view this. All right, so this is our list. Now you see the first one, it skips the second one, goes to the third one. All right, so even here, first skip this one, go here, and like that. So that's for odd. You can set it to even. You can choose specific number by saying okay, 2. Okay, and let's say 2 should be red. Remember 2 is even, so we will see the effect correctly. Now I said all the tools. Okay, so this is end child 2, so it counting 1 2, index of 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, and it has kept it to be red. So now let's see what's the difference between our next one here, which says the end of type. The end of type. We've seen the end type. So if you wonder what's the difference between end of and end of type, now let's read it from here. The end selector selects an element based on its position within the parent container, like we have seen, regardless of its type. Even if we have in this place, even if we have another element here, okay, let's use it for, okay, let's just read it regardless of its type. So even if there is a, we'll see it shortly, even if there is a paragraph there, it will still choose the end element. It will count the index from 0 to 1, including the different element. But the end of type selector select an element based on its position within the parent tag, but only if it is of the specific type. So if li is li, and if p is p, and if h1 h2 is h1 h2. Okay, so let's use this as an example. Let's add h2 or h3 here. Let's use h2. Let's say this is end of type example. All right, so we're going to now choose, let's give this a class of end of type. So let's copy this. So we're going to go to our CSS. We're going to say dot. Okay, so we're selecting now. We're going to say end of type. Let's say 3. Come on. Let's view what that paragraph has first, so we can know. Where is the paragraph? This is the last paragraph. This is okay. Yeah, this is it. So this is the section we're working with now. All right. So let's give it a color of purple. Let's say purple. Now let's say we want the end of type 3. Number 3 should be, okay, no, let's say number 4. I think number 4 is the h2 to be color. All right. Okay, so we'll copy this. We can even just use the p directly, but let's assume we want to combine them with the class. So we can take that, go back to our CSS. Remember, we have 1, 2, 3 paragraph here and h2. So let's say end type of. So using the direct end type of, you might not really see the difference between the end child and the end type of, but when you now have to use the last of type, the difference is very clear. Okay, so we're going to say select our p, this p tag, our class, pseudo class, and say last type of, and let's give it 2, meaning start counting from down, the last type, 1, 2, right? So let's see. I want the color to be, let's use aqua. Okay. All right, where's your paragraph? Okay, this is our paragraph. Let's check again. Let's see where we're making a mistake. Okay, we skipped the end. It's end last type of, yeah, end last type of. So end last type of and the end last child. We're going to check the difference now. Okay, so you can see this is our first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph, and this. Remember we said that the difference between the two is that for the end child, select an element based on its position. It doesn't matter whether it's a H tag or P tag, but as long as you selected, as long as they are together in one div, it start counting from the very last element. But the end of type will not will only attend to the one that has the same element as itself. So that's why you see that first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph, it ignored the H2 and took this third paragraph and okay, let's close this. Okay, it ignored the H2 and took this third paragraph as its first last type of, and it counted first last, second last, so it took this and gave it a color. But if we are to use the end type, last type of what the end type, it's going to start counting from here. It will because they are all in the same div. It will not check whether it's a P or it's a H. It will start counting from here, and it's going to now change this one instead. It will take this as its second last, while for end type of will use only its similar elements and start counting from here, 1, 2, second last, and use this. All right, let's see for this next one. So we're going to say end last child. Let's even put it up here because this is for end child. So end last child and end child, they work similarly, the same way. So we're saying, remember we did combination here. We can just put it directly and say P and say end last child to, sorry, and say color should be, which one have we not used? Gray. Let's use gray. All right, so let's see. Now this is for end last child. Why? This is for end last of type. Last of type. Last of the exact same type. Let's refresh this. Okay, now you see this has become dark gray. I don't know if you can see the color very well. Let's change it to something else. Did it change? Sorry. Okay, let's give it a color up for yellow, yellow, yellow. All right. So you can see now end child will recognize every single element in a particular section. regardless of the element, while end type of will only consider the element that is of the same type. I hope that is clear. Thank you. Let's proceed. So the next is using the end type of not selector example, not selector. So what this does is it will take every other selector except the selector that you choose to be not selector. Okay, so we'll get the syntax for that. We're working on the not with this one. Come to here. Remember, we have our div and we have a class of highlights, so we can say div not. Okay, this is the syntax. Then inside you put your selector, your class rather. Our class name is highlights. So say highlights. Then we'll say background color should be gray. All right. So you see every okay, let's look at this again. Not dot highlight. Now we have okay, this is where we have the highlight. So the first one says highlighted div. So this is our focus, highlighted div. So every other div, remember we have elements that are not in a div. Like this section is not in a div, this section is not in a div. So these ones will not have a background of gray. So every div in our HTML will have a background of gray. So this is our focus, this one with the class of highlighted div. So except highlighted div. So let's go and check it again. Okay, now we are looking for highlighted div. So every div, every div, see these ones are not in a div, that's why they are like this. Every div has except highlighted div. You see? So every other div has a background color of gray except highlighted div. So the syntax is just to use a div not, specify the class or the elements, and then you give it a style. You separate it, exclude it from any styling that you want to exclude it from. All right. The next will be okay. We have seen for the inputs, we checked input on focus before, so we're going to check again on all right, so we'll just copy our styling and add. So we'll go fast, so we'll not spend too much time on this now. So our video will not be too long. What we want to do here is to select this disabled, so you can also style your disabled in your input type. So how do we do that? We come here, disable. Let's paste this in. So all you have to do is select the input and say input disabled. So as the pseudo class disabled. So we can say our disabled should, instead of the usual gray, it should be light blue. So let's go and check our form. You see our disabled link, disabled input box is light gray. The default, the background is light gray. The default is white, so we have changed it to light gray. Let's take this out first time. Okay, the default is gray. The default is gray for disabled. Yes, sorry, the default is gray for disabled. I was referring to the text before, but now I've changed it to light blue. So you see the difference. All right. So the next is checkbox and radio button. So we can also style our checkbox and radio button. I'm just going to paste. Let's paste that in for checkbox and radio buttons. Okay, so this is how we go. We already know this syntax before. So input type, you select the attributes checkbox. Then you put your pseudo class dot checked plus label. Remember this plus which we use for our adjacent. So adjacent combinator. So this plus is saying the label that is directly close to our checkbox, give it a background of yellow. The label that is directly close to our radio, give it a background. So this is just showing us a way of combining it all, the attribute selector and the pseudo class selector. This is the pseudo class. All right, so let's see how this will work. Control. All right. So we'll have a checkbox. If we uncheck this, you see the yellow goes out. Check this, yellow comes back. If we check this radio button, so it changes the label background to yellow. So this is how you can also select your checkbox and your radio button. All right, so let's come back to this. Next, we're going to see how we're done with checkbox and radio buttons. Now, how do you do tooltip in CSS? So we have this paragraph and we want that when we, we want that when we want to hide this paragraph so that when we hover on this div, it will show us what we have in the paragraph, like a tooltip. Okay, so like a tooltip. So if you're using Bootstrap, you just use the class tooltip and you get this. But for CSS, we're going to do it this way. So we have our paragraph here. We're going to style our paragraph. Let's give it a class and say tooltip. So we'll start with the paragraph. We can say the paragraph of the class because we have multiple paragraphs, so we're not just going to say P. We'll say display should be none. All right, so this will hide. All right, you see, we can no longer see our paragraph. So we want that when we hover on it, then the paragraph should show. So let's come back here. We're going to say, let's give a paragraph a background color of blue. So let's say div dot this should. So we are going to set our P that on hover on this div, our paragraph, instead of hiding as none, should display as block. So we're going to say on hover, pick our paragraph and change the display to be block. Okay, so let's refresh. And here is it, hover over the div, you see. All right, so that is how we can use another way of using the hover to get a tooltip. All right, so we're almost done. Next, we're going to see. Yes, we've now gotten to the pseudo element. So the pseudo element will say, you know, the single colon before and single colon after this pseudo element up. Okay, so this should be double, 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 double. The powerful tool in CSS that allows you to insert content before and after the element actual content. So they are commonly used for decorative purposes or hiding icons, clearing floats, and more. So let's see how we can use it to add content. All right, so for the before, we are going to select the P and use the before to add something before and after. So for the class of info and the class of warning, I'm just going to paste the style in so we can run fast. Pseudo before and after. Pseudo elements. So now for the before, we want to add content. First of all, you have the content. Content is what do you want to add before? That's content. Even for after, that's the syntax content. So what do you want to add before there? If there's another style you want to add, you can add it. But the major syntax there is the content. So here for the paragraph, we want to add before the paragraph. We want to add, okay, let's see. Okay, our paragraph does not have any class. Let's give it a class so it does. Okay, hold on. Let's just say it will affect all the paragraph we have. That's not a problem. Then for the info warning, we're going to see for the info warning class, it's going to add this warning, this info icon, this big I here. Then for the warning class, it's going to add this icon in after it in front of it. So let's view this. Okay, refresh. So you see all our paragraphs now have notes at their beginning and end at their ending. You see notes, end, notes, end. Then for the info, this is the one we gave a class of info. You see this big I in representing the info icon. Then for the class of warning, you see this icon in front of it. So this is before, add the info icon, and after, add the warning sign icon, the warning symbol. So this is it. Now next we're going to see the next one, which is clear fix. All right, clear fix. So clear fix is not, because if you've used Bootstrap, Clearface is a class in Bootstrap, but for HTML and CSS is not a default or built-in class of any kind. It's a custom class that developers create to handle float clearing when you use the float left um, property and value. So we have these boxes, and by default they are going to appear, they're going to fall on each other. Okay, so this is box 1, box 2, box 3. Okay, we're going to style our box first. Let me bring in the styling for our box. So back here, okay, so this is our box. Now if you notice, let's go back to our HTML. These boxes, after these boxes, we have this H4. H4 is a block level element. UL is a block level element, OL is block, but you can see that they are all floating towards the box, and we only set this box to float left. Setting the box to the float left property will cause it to behave like an inline element. It will move all of them to one side. So every other block level element around it will just naturally begin to flow towards the float property. The element that you have set to the floated element, it will just naturally flow towards it. So this is where clear fix come in. So when you set your clear fix to be clear, it will break these other divs down, like it will clear them from following the floated elements. So let's set that now. Alright, so back to our CSS. So right here, we're going to set our clear fix. We'll take our class, sorry, and then we'll say clear face. First of all, we'll begin with the content. Okay, sorry, we did not set the after. Okay, so the correct syntax is clear face after. That's after, that's that's after the float. What should happen? What should you see next? Okay, so we want that the content should be empty. We're setting it to be an empty string, meaning after the clear, okay, we're not, you see, some of them has gone down, but it's still there. Okay, so clear, after we want to have an empty string there, then we're going to say clear should be set to both. Clear should be set to both because we want it that no class, both on the main div and the divs that are flowing towards the floated element, we want them all to float down. So we're still going to set the display. We can set it to be display block or display table. So this will cause it to act like a block level element again. So something's wrong with our CSS style. So we have our boxes aren't having uh, alright, so our CSS is correct. Let's inspect this element and find out why we're not having this styling for our box. So you see, setting it to display block, let's even try display block. Let's say table, let's say block or inline block, let's see. Nope, that did not work. Over block. Yes, so block works. So either set to table or block. So they are the block and table they work also. So now setting it to clear, meaning take the whole place, act as a block element. Clear whatever is in front of you to have an empty string, and then what next? Clear the float from both the floated element and the element surrounding it. That's the clear both. Alright, so let's find out why we're not having our style. Inspect. Okay, so here we see our background color has been cancelled that because we have another background color that's affecting it. All right, so we're going to remove that not dot highlights. Let's remove that. Let's comment that one out so we can see this clearly. Okay, not should not be for. All right, so let's comment this out, and yeah, we can now have our boxes correctly. All right, so this is it. Okay, are we not done yet? Okay, so last but not the least, the marker and the select. Let's see how we can do marker and select. We've seen clear fix. All right, so marker is used for list, and select is, normal select when you select, so the selection. So list marker. All right, list marker. This is just setting this and say marker. It knows that it's for your list, and so you can set the color you want those bullet points or numbers, what colors you want them to have. That's how you can style that. So I say blue. Let's refresh this. Let's see. All right, you see they're all blue. By default, they are black, right? So let's see, when we select, we want the text to be um, gray, and the text to be, now is white. Now is white. Okay, we want it to be blue with a background color of red. All right, so that we'll do that by saying selection, and you say selection color should be, now is white. Let's say it should be brown. Then we'll give it a background color of blue. Okay, so whatever you select will automatically have a background color of blue and a color of red. So that's for selection. Okay, so there are also the first line and the first letter. Okay, first line, and we've seen before after marker selection, first line and first letter. Let's just see that to be our last, and we are done. For the pseudo element selector, we've done the pseudo class. This is the pseudo element. So let's assume we want to select this T, only this T, the first of this paragraph. So we're going to, let's say of all our paragraph. So we're going to say P, and we're going to say first letter. We want the first letter to be a font size of 42 px. Okay, and we want the color to be blue. So let's see, now you see all our paragraph now has the first letter to be blue and big. All right, so let's see for first line. First line is just a whole line like this. Okay, now let's see, just simple P. You can use this for any of the elements, first letter, first line. So these are the basic pseudo class, the common pseudo class that you can use. So we want the font size to be, let's say medium, and then we want the font family. Okay, let's say font weight 500. Font family to be, let's use cursive. Okay, so this should be visible. The first first line. All right, so you see every first line paragraph now has, you see, cursive. If there are more than one line, let's say, let's add more lines to some of our paragraphs. So I was wondering, okay, these are H2. Oh yeah, let's use this H2. Let's change this P to H2. Right, so you see the whole first line of this, as long as it's the first line, once it hits to the next line, it maintains its original style. But whatever is set for the first line will take whatever it is for the first line. So that is how you can, change the first line of your. So with this, I think we have come to the end of pseudo selector. We saw the pseudo class where we have the hover, active, in focus, visited, and the end child, the disabled, end type of. Then for the pseudo element, we saw the the before, after marker selection, first line, first letter was yeah, after and before the classes. All right, so thank you very much. Please do well to like this video, do well to share and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Thank you very much. I hope this gives you a better understanding of pseudo selectors. Bye.